Namaskar. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all our audiences across the globe. What a momentous occasion. We are back once again with yet another edition of Cradle webinar series. As you know, Cradle webinar series has been selecting and presenting topics based on contemporary issues affecting the humankind, affecting man's day-to-day life. Today, once again, we are back with yet another issue which is probably baffling the humankind for a long time. Before I introduce the topic to you, I'm reminded of a small paragraph written by Charles Dickens, the famous literary personality, novelist. His book, A Tale of Two Cities, begins with an introduction like this. It was the best of times. It was the worst days of foolishness. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the contradictions. When we read this paragraph, we are reminded of our times today. The present times resemble what Charles Dickens has said in his book, A Tale of Two Cities. Ladies and gentlemen, today we live in a world of contradictions. Today, we have everything, and probably we have nothing. We have plenty, but we have paucity. We live in a world of contradictions. The question that the humankind is faced today is material world or spiritual world? Are they in conflict? Can I live in a material world? Can I live a spiritual life? These questions have been bothering human beings for many, many, many years. To dwell upon this topic, we have got a very eminent speaker, a scholar, a researcher, an academician. I would like to use this opportunity to introduce our speaker, our panelist today, who is an associate professor in the Department of Mechanical Engineering at Indian Institute of Technology, Dhanbad. He is none other than Professor Dr. Rasmi Ranjan Das. Professor Das has a master's in machine design and a PhD in fracture mechanics from IIT Kharagpur. A researcher, a scholar, an academician who has written many papers, presented in seminars and his papers in seminars and symposiums across the globe. We are extremely fortunate to have Professor Rashmi Ranjan Das with us today. I would like to invite our guest of this evening on stage, please. Professor Das, thank you very much for joining us today. Welcome to the Cradle webinar series. It's a privilege to have you with us today.
Thank you.
As I was slightly hinting at the society today and the contradictions that the man is experiencing today, and one of the biggest contradictions, ambiguities, question mark that the man has today is between spirituality and materialism, spiritual world and material world. And our audience is extremely fortunate to have you with us today to take us through a series of questions. And I would like to begin by asking you a very basic question to start with. And the question is, Professor Das, material world and spiritual world, are they different? Are they the same? If they're different, how they are different? Would you like to throw some light on this question, please?
Surely, sir. Surely, sir. The privilege is all mine, and thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity to be a part of this blessed platform to share views on this burning topic. So the question is material world and spiritual world, how they are different. So to understand that, I think we have to understand the terms matter and spirit first. Matter is something which can be perceived through all our senses, and it has got a change of phase, like from expansion to contraction to equilibrium and all. Whereas spirit is actually a state of energy which cannot be perceived by all our senses. Like we can feel many of the energies, but you can see them. A very nice example of this matter spirit combination is a human being itself. The human body is an example of matter or mass. It is integrated with the spirit, which is a level of energy, as a life energy that leads to the human being. All might have heard the famous equation given by Einstein, E is equal to mc square, that clearly establishes that mass and energy are not different, rather, they are two different stages of the same continuum. When energy condensed, it gives mass. So we can say mass is actually energy in a gross form. Similarly, when you disperse a mass, it leads to energy. So we can say energy is nothing but mass in a fine form. So similar to this mass energy equivalence, we can also conclude that material world and spiritual world are not two different stages of life. Rather, they are one and deeply interrelated. If we peep inside, we can understand that spiritual world is actually the cause behind material world, just like the energy is the cause behind matter. For example, every position, every material position what we have is an outcome of is an outcome of a thought which has been generated from a specific state of mind. Say I thought to procure an object. Now this thought, when executed into action, leads to physical embodiment of that object. So every materialistic position we have is a physical embodiment of a thought generated from a specific energy level. So we can conclude like this, that all my material positions are actually outcomes of a bunch of thoughts which has been generated from a state of mind, different states of mind, different states of energies. So we can define the material world like the world comprising of all the material positions is my material world. Similarly or parallelly, the world comprising of all my thoughts, feelings, state of mind, which is the cause behind this material world, is my spiritual world. So it is very clear that there is no gap between spiritual and material world. They are ever inseparable. Rather, spiritual world is the cause behind material world. We can the problem lies where that we can perceive this material world, but we cannot perceive this spiritual world through the normal senses. That doesn't mean that it doesn't exist or it is separable. It is separate from the material world. In fact, it is an integral part of that. If you want to perceive the spiritual world, it is also possible, but for that we need a suprasensory perception that is developed through an attachment to a spiritual guide. We can through this we can also have a clear perception of this spiritual world, which is the reason behind the material world. I hope this clarifies the point.
Oh, brilliant. I think you have busted many myths today about matter and spirit and the material world and spiritual world. I think you have challenged the conventional understanding of these two. And it is enchanting to learn from you that spirit is the cause of matter. And it's probably one is a manifestation of the other, either in a gross form or in a fine form. And you have also given a lot of hopes to all of us. While we know that it is difficult for us to perceive the spiritual world, the finer and the finest elements, but you have also given us hope that it is possible to perceive it by or through an attachment to a superior beloved. So I think this is going to be an interesting discussion, and this discussion is going to lead us to some possibilities, to some hopes, probably some transformation in our life. Professor Das, as you said, they're inseparable. They're kind of inextricably linked with each other. How do you find the balance? If you have to lead a materialistic life and spiritual life together, how do you find the balance between the two?
As I said just now, that spirit, which is an emblem of a state of energy or energy level, is actually responsible for thoughts which are executed into physical embodiment of matter. This is a simplest truth. Now, a lower spiritual state that indicates a lower energy level leads to lower level of thoughts, basically for fulfillment of passionate craves or passionate desires. However, when awakened to a higher level, an elevated spiritual state at a higher energy level impulses enriched thoughts for a greater cause. So, achieving an uplifted spiritual state leading to refined thoughts, which gets materialized into purposeful objects or matters, is the basis of material spiritual equilibrium. Now, how to achieve it? To achieve this material spiritual equilibrium, we need to be tuned with an ideal or a superior beloved or a spiritual master through love, service, and admiration. This attachment to a spiritual guide maintains our spirit consistently at a higher energy level, causing a drastic refinement at the level of our thoughts and desires. And this ideal centric adjustment of progressive go of life is the essence of spiritualism. Now, what is the material spiritual imbalance then, which most of us lead? A person may be great out of fulfillment of his passionate desires and ambition, but out of this passionate desire to fulfill his thoughts, fulfill his desires, he may become great, but he can never achieve self-control. He will remain at a lower spiritual state and will be swept away by his passionate desires and would never be able to refine it to a final level, and which is nothing but a material spiritual imbalance. To mm, clarify, I'll just share one of my personal experience to make this point more clear. Uh, how can we uplift our spiritual state of spirit to have a refined thought? As a small example of it's a personal experience. A few years back, I wanted to procure a car. I consulted my fellow colleagues here that which brand should I go for, what size should I go for. They are given suggestions as per their own understanding. Anyway, but I really got confused that what should I do. I was not been able to take a proper decision that which brand should I go for, what size should I go for. One day, after evening prayer, I was just sitting in front of my spiritual guide and meditating with his holy name. During that state of intunement with my spiritual guide, I asked the same question to myself, that what should I do? Which car should I procure? Astonishingly, another question spontaneously picked into my mind, what is the ultimate purpose of procuring this car? Not the purpose, what is the ultimate purpose of procuring this car? And the answer was crystal clear, that I want ultimately to serve my ideal. I want to ultimately fulfill the wishes of my ideal, my superior beloved, through this car. It should be of some use to him also. So serving my Gurudev is nothing but serving the extended environment. So then how can I go for a small one? How can I go for a small car then? I must go for a bigger one. So which can accommodate more persons. So I took the blessings of Acharya Dev and went for a bigger one. I went for a Innova Krista. Today while going to ashram, I could take 3 more families along with me to ashram. I can take the research scholars. I could serve my ideal to a larger scale. Without being in tune with my spiritual guide, I could not have been taken this refined decision, which the consequences of which I'm enjoying today. I hope this clarifies the point.
Absolutely. This is so powerful. I mean, you have said something which is very powerful. and astoundingly relevant to our lives in such a simple language. And I'm reminded of something because you talked about you shared your personal example, and you talked about meditating before your spiritual guide. And I know that your spiritual guide is Sri Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra. And all of us know that when we practice meditation under the guidance of a spiritual teacher, um, our brain cells become sensitive. Their ability to perceive things become sharper. So, and a few minutes ago you were talking about that suprasensory experience. Um, I think probably when you have attachment to a spiritual guide, you have a love center in your life, and through the process of meditation, by chanting the mantra, when you try to connect with your spiritual master, your your nerves, your brain cells, the neurons in the body, they all become activated. And these are probably um, the tools and means to experience some of those um, spiritual aspects which are beyond the material world or the cause of the material world. Absolutely brilliant. I think this the experience that you shared actually explains the concepts that you probably talked about a little while ago. We'll take the discussion forward. I think a question which is linked to the previous one. Um, you know, we talked about material world and spiritual world, and we talked about how to find the balance. Now we are slowly progressing towards spiritual growth. And what I understand from you is it is possible to have spiritual progression in this materialistic world. But my question would be, I think probably you would throw more light on this, but why is it so essential to have spiritual growth in this materialistic world? Why not just go after matter? In the scientific world, science deals with mechanism. And scientists believe that it's all about understanding the mechanism of everything. Why it is important to lead a spiritual life, why it is essential to have spiritual growth in this materialistic world.
Uh, to answer this question, I think we need to understand the meaning of the term spiritualism or spiritual growth. Then only you can understand that why spiritual growth is inevitable for this materialistic world. Why we cannot ignore spiritualistic development in this materialistic world. Spiritualism is the work and activities that helps us to develop a suprasensory perception. What I was talking previously, it is those works and activities that helps us to develop that suprasensory perception, which not only which not only um, for the purpose of perceiving the world of cause or the spiritual world, what I was talking a little while ago, but also to understand a relationship between this spiritual world and material world. And one of the major aspect is it helps us to spiritualize the material go of life. Spiritualize the material go of life. This I'm quoting from one of the definitions given by my spiritual guide, Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra ji. He has beautifully said that spiritualism is nothing but to spiritualize the material go of life. So, what is spiritualizing the material go of life? Spiritualizing the material go of life is to adjust and utilize the matter in such a way that it nurtures the spirit and maintains its consistent urge towards becoming. So, a person with developed spiritual powers or a person with spiritualism will be able to do three things. First, he is capable of uplifting his spiritual state or energy level, leading to refined thoughts. Second, he can execute these refined thoughts into purposeful objects. Third, and the most important, he can utilize these objects, this matter, for upliftment of his energy level during the period of distress. We all are bound to go through phases of distress where this spiritual energy plays a major role in utilizing this material what we have collected through our materialistic positions to uplift our spiritual power again. In Sanskrit, the synonym for spiritualism is adhyatmikata, and adhyatmikata is being made up of two words. One is adhi and one is atmikata. Adhi to uphold, and atmikata means the progressive go of life. So if you club them together, adhyatmikata or spiritualism means the process which upholds the progressive go of life. The process which upholds the progressive go of life, that is consistent urge towards becoming. One example I'll just cite to make this point more clear, that how to spiritualize the material go of life, how the spiritual power gives that power, that power inside us to utilize the matter for spiritual upliftment again. Just a small example. During the lockdown period, I could remember that we were just locked inside. There are no physical satsangs, there are no physical gatherings. Even the ashram was closed. All of us were actually going through a very dispirited level, and the energy level inside us was seems to be stooping down through anguish and affliction. During that dispirited phase, the online satsang started through this mobile. We never had the concept of online satsangs prior to Corona. It was a revolutionary step during that phase. So this small mobile phone, which we use for chatting and for other purposes, is an emblem of a matter, has been reutilized during this period of distress. This small mobile phone, which is an emblem of matter, has been reutilized at this period of distress for nurturing our spirit, to uplift it from a dispirited phase, re-stimulating its urge towards a consistent becoming. This is an example of spiritualizing the material go of life. And what will be the negative consequences if a man doesn't have a spiritual growth? A person intending for materialistic development without spiritual growth he fails to spiritualize the material go of life. He may gather objects, but will not be able to utilize these material aspects for his own spiritual upliftment during the period of distress. An example I can cite: the suicide committed by a famous Bollywood star, you may be knowing, after Sushant Singh Rajput, is a burning example. Many such examples can be cited here. People enriched with materialistic luxury failed to utilize it for their spiritual upliftment during a period of distress, and they ended their life. The reason is simple: they were not spiritual. It was just a materialistic growth without spiritual upliftment. I hope this clarifies the point.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. I think spiritualism, as all of us understood from what you said, is something that upholds the progressive go of our life. When I was listening to you, I was reminded of this incident in Mahabharata, when the Pandavas were in the forest roaming around, and once Bhima was very unhappy and frustrated with their condition, and he started complaining to Yudhishthir, Bhaya, what is the point? I mean, you are a spiritual man, but this is what you are experiencing in life. You are moving around in forest, and all of us are moving around in forest. Is this what we have got out of spirituality? And Duryodhan, who is a sinner, who has no spiritual experience, who does not believe in God, does not have respect for values, is enjoying life, sitting on the throne. And Yudhishthira said something very powerful. He said, look, Bhima, maybe Duryodhan is enjoying his life and we are roaming around in the forest, but there is a subtle difference between him and us. We have Krishna in our life. He doesn't have Krishna. And the biggest difference is when we have Krishna in our life, we can remain happy, steady in all situations, both in good times and bad times. Duryodhana is experiencing good times today, but once he starts experiencing bad times, he will fall apart because he doesn't have Krishna in his life. He doesn't have a love center in his life. And that's what we exactly saw, how his life got disintegrated, how he met a very fateful end in his life. I was just reminded of this incident when you were talking about spiritualizing the go of life, spiritualizing matter to uplift ourselves, to uplift our spirit, to uplift our energy. And the example of the mobile phone, a material object being used for a spiritual purpose, was a brilliant example. I loved it. Um, I think this is a great discussion going on. Professor Das, I think we have lot of eminent people in the audience today, and then we have a good audience, a sizable number. They're waiting to ask a lot of questions. So I would definitely like to give them an opportunity. But before that, I would like to ask one final question, and then we'll move on to the audience section. The question that I would like to ask you, Professor Das, we talked about matter, spirit, we talked about spiritual life. What is the ultimate goal of life? And in the materialistic world, if it is all about money and wealth, how does earning money contribute to this? What's the ultimate goal of life, and how does earning money contribute?
The ultimate goal of life is to attain godhood, Ishwar Prapti. Every entity of this universe is being carefully retained and nurtured by the Almighty Lord. The capability to retain, which is called Dharan, and the capability to nurture, which is called Palan, are two distinct characteristics of this godhood. As God has created man after his own image, so every man is by default a miniature God in its small universal domain where he retains and nurtures his dependents. But for transformation of a human being from manhood to godhood, he needs a superior beloved beyond his dimensions, who is a physical embodiment of this godhood before him. The more he concentrates his affinity to his living ideal through love, service, nurture, and fulfillment, he accordingly attains godhood in terms of the ability to retain and nurture a greater environment. So, in the process of fulfilling the wishes of his superior beloved, he deeply realizes this fact that his environment is an integral part of his own life and growth. He just cannot prosper without the prosperity of his environment. This is the greatest realization a person achieves while fulfilling the wishes of his superior beloved, while transformation from manhood to godhood. His dimensions extends. When he from a smaller dimension, he automatically gets transformed to a larger dimension. Gradually, he develops a propitious outlook than a self-centered, ambitious outlook. He tries to live and grow along with his environment rather than ignoring it. This gradually makes him a great man. Because a rich man may not be great, but a great man is invariably rich as he has learned and realized the importance of learning or yearning human being. Yes, this is the key aspect he learned. Rather than a unicentric focus on earning money, he has realized the importance of earning a human being. So if we think from the materialistic requirement of a truly spiritual man, actually the reverse happens. We think the spiritual people don't have any requirement. The materialistic people only have requirement. But actually the contradiction is true. The materialistic requirement of a truly spiritual man is many folds higher than a so-called materialistic man, as he has to sustain and nurture a tremendously larger environment for the sake of its superior beloved. So, a truly spiritual person spontaneously feels a tremendous materialistic requirement than a normal material prominent man. It's obvious because he has to nurture and sustain a greater environment. He has to give nurture. He has to take along with him a greater environment for the sake, for the pleasing, for the satisfaction of his beloved Lord. But the difference only is that where a material prominent man has to try hard, try different means for achieving his self-centric requirements, wealth becomes spontaneous for a truly spiritual man. As he has gained the core competency for wealth, for earning wealth, that is, he knows how to earn a human being. That's the core competency. Yeah, that's why that is how earning money fulfills his ultimate goal for attaining the for transformation for the manhood to the godhood. I hope this clarifies well.
Absolutely, absolutely. The man who lives in this by the side of the river doesn't have to store water in his house because he has access to immense source of water. So similarly, um, who is connected with the source of resources doesn't have to really worry about accumulating wealth because he has access to you know unlimited quantum of wealth. I remember what once Sri Thakur said. Uh, he said, these sadhus and rishis, probably some of them just wear a single piece of cloth. People call them Maharaj. Some of them address a sadhu, a simple, ordinary sadhu, who has nothing. He is also addressed as a Maharaj because they have the wealth of people. That's a brilliant thing. I think once Sri Thakur said, I don't worry about the brinjal, I worry about the plant. Um, you know, just taking care of your environment for the sake of your superior beloved, that becomes an immense source of wealth for any individual. But I think what it boils down to is attachment to this love center in life, or the life center, which probably brings balance and and thereby a very meaningful, progressive, steady, uplifting life. Great perspectives being shared by Professor Das. Audience, now it is time for you to ask questions. So may I request audience questions to be flashed on the screen, please? Let's see what is the first question coming up. All right, so here is a question from Saswat Sinha. Apparently in India, we have so many spiritual leaders. How to know which spiritual leader is a true spiritual guru so that we can motivate others to follow him? Would you like to throw some light on this question, Professor Das?
I'll just like to quote a verse from Vedas. It has been told that when we are in companion of a true spiritual leader, संगात संजायते श्रद्धा श्रद्धया दृष्टि शुद्धता दृष्टि शुद्ध ही विश्वास विश्वासात निर्विचारता निर्विचारात भवेत् प्रेम प्रेमाश्चात आत्मसमर्पणम. The true companion of a spiritually elevated master automatically brings these changes in my character. In my character, Sangata Sanjayata Shraddha, I will automatically develop Shraddha. Shraddhavan Labhate Jnanam. That's the first stage of having the real spark of knowledge. Sangata Sanjayata Shraddha. The next stage of Shraddha is Dusti Suddhata. I will have my eyes cleaned. I will just see positivity in everything. So negativity will go. I'll be full with positivity. So Sangha se Shraddha, Sangata Sanjayata Shraddha, Shraddhaya Drusti Suddhata, Drusti Suddhai Vishwas. The next stage of Drusti Suddhata is Vishwas. Then I will have Vishwas, which will never be afflicted by contradictions. Vishwasat Nirvicharata. And after that, I will become questionless. I don't have any question inside me. Nirbichara bhavet prema, the next stage is love, and surrender is the topmost stage of love. So premaschat atmasmarpanam. So the only thing is I have to, that will indicate when once you go in his company, these things are coming in my characteristics or not. From that, I will easily be able to know that I'm in the true company of a spiritually elevated master or not. I hope
This is
this
powerful. I think this is the love or the shraddha which brings the spark of wisdom in a human being. And that would probably help one realize whether he's in the company of a true master or not. If I can just add to this, to the brilliant perspective shared by Professor Das, Saswat, I think some of the characteristics of a true master are he is a supreme lover. He is somebody who has infinite love. Through his skill or tact or otherwise, is always engaged in the welfare of the mankind. He is a supreme fulfiller. He fulfills everybody according to one's temperament, characteristics. He, he would fulfill me as per my characteristics, my temperament, for the same problem that you and I may have. He may have completely different solutions because our temperament, our characteristics could be very different, our needs could be very different. So he fulfills accordingly. He sacrifices his life for the sake of the mankind. And such a guru is the fulfiller of instincts. Every human being comes with some distinct qualities, special abilities, innate abilities. Very rarely a man realizes what true potential that he or she is born with. A true guru can identify the distinct qualities of a man, of an individual. Not only identifies, he can also unleash the true potential that every human being has. I hope our response is helpful, Shashwat. May I request the second question to be brought on the screen, please? This question is from Tanaya. These days, many people try to inculcate spirituality in children, try to practice the learnings. Can spirituality be nurtured like this? Very interesting question, Professor Das.
yes, it can touch some aspects, but ultimately we need a physical embodiment. Ultimately, we need a physical embodiment where we can realize, we can feel, we can have a practical feeling of this spirituality, the aspects, the uh, characteristics of spirituality. Mere videos will not do, because as I said, sangha, I have to be practically to be in touch with him. That is a major aspect. Without which the real transformation of characteristics will not happen, what I understand. Because Sister Thakur has also given one example that reading in the lab, students can, uh, like here at IITs also, we have a big library having a tremendous number of books. Students may read in the library, but they will learn more and in a multitude volume when they're in touch with the realized professors, because the professors are actually the physical embodiment of those books. So being in practical contact with experts takes the knowledge or the realization level to a greater height as compared to simple references like videos and pictures and books. What I think, Sujata, you can add a few more points.
No, this no, you. I think you hit the nail on the head, and I think the great example. I mean, IITs have great libraries, but you still need a teacher. You need to go to a teacher. I think in today's world, we don't have any paucity of videos, messages, posts, WhatsApp messages, Facebook messages, and so on. There is no lack of information, no lack of advice, no lack of words what we lack today is experience. There is plenty of information, but there is lack of experience. I think that's what you talked about, the practical experience. I think we can talk for hundreds of hours about rasgolla, but we will not understand anything until and unless we kind of take a small slice and then put it inside our mouth, put it on our tongue. Until we do that, we'll not experience it. So, as you said, having a true master in life and striving to fulfill the wishes of the true master, putting efforts day in and day out, through that comes experience. So, attachment to a love center and trying to serve the master, and through that, Thakur says, what is gained by realization is wisdom. Wisdom is nothing else. So brilliantly said, shared by Dr. Das with a great example. I hope this has answered your question. We'll move on to the next question. Can the next question be brought on the screen, please? This question has come from Swati Sarkar. Yearning for getting a Mark Maybach or ambition of buying a sea-facing luxury villa at an exotic location and attending salvation. Can both desires coexist at the same time? Very interesting question.
Yes, it can. I think ultimately, if that unicentric attachment is there, I may have these luxurious desires, but I should know that why at all I need this. What is the root cause behind that? Is it for my self satisfaction? Why at all I need it? I need to see the uh, reason behind that, the purpose behind that. If I have if I have a, living master, I got a spiritual guide. As I said, the requirements are multitude. The once you have got a truly spiritual master with you, the requirements are multitude before you, because you have to ultimately serve a larger environment. You can't even expect what kind of requirements, what kind of materialistic life you may need in the future course of time. From time to time, it will vary, but you can say. But point is that why at all I need it. So if that one is there in my life, if that the presence of that spiritual master is in my life, then with having all these losses in my life, I can still aspire for moksha, no problem. But if I can know the tactfully, I know how to use it for the purpose of my ideal. As you was telling, Sujata was telling that Pandavas, Yudhishthira said that we are having Krishna in our life. That is why this phase doesn't matter. So it may be a phase of distress, maybe a phase of luxury. If that one is with us, then, and if everything is for his fulfillment, then no worries. We're on the right track. He is capable of guiding us to the right track, towards the ultimate goal of our life. I think Sujata, you can add a few more points to make it more clear.
Very well said. I think the only thing I would like to add is why one sea-facing luxury villa, or why one Mercedes. Maybe one can buy 10 or 100. But the question is, we have to be clear, as you said, what is the purpose? Is having a sea-facing luxury villa is the purpose, or is salvation is the purpose? So now the question is, one, money and wealth can be a means to achieve an end. As you said, a spiritualistic person requires resources as well. So as long as money is a tool, it is a resource, life can be beautiful. But when earning money becomes the primary goal of life, and superior beloved is not, then I think the life falls apart. So earning wealth is not a problem at all. But that is not the primary purpose of life. Primary purpose of life is something is love, about earning money or something. I'm reminded of something Lord Ramakrishna used to say. He used to say it is foolish to go to a king and ask for rice, dal, and brinjal and parbal. Nobody goes to a king and asks for this. You go to a king and ask for gold, diamond, you ask for wealth. He also, then Ramakrishna Paramahansa goes on to say, it is stupidity to go to God and ask for money, wealth, and affluence. A wise man would go to God and ask, God, give me devotion, give me knowledge, give me wisdom, give me energy. That is what a wise man will ask for. Because we don't go to a flower and ask the flower, give me aroma. We don't look at the sun and then say, sun, give me sunlight. It is flower's nature to spread aroma. It is sun's nature to spread light. The Supreme Father, it is his nature to have compassion on everybody. We don't have to ask him for that. So my primary objective goal is him, not what I can get from him. I hope that answers this question. We can move on to the next question now. There's a question from Jayashree. If someone follows and maintains some principles in his or her life, then is it necessary having supreme ideal in his life, and why? Good question. Professor Das, if you'd like to share something on this.
Yeah, just I just I was just in the previous questions I was just telling about this only, that there are good maintaining principles in life is good. As Sujal was also telling, that we are not lacking any information. That plenty of informations, we are already aware of what is good and what is bad for us. That's okay. But thing is that what we're lacking is we're lacking examples. Reading good books will not make me good. Referring to good movies or good videos will not make me good. Seeing Ramayana will not make me good. Thing is that I need a living Ramchandra before me. I need a living Krishna before me, who can interfere in my life. Not only his presence will not do. If I will not allow him to interfere in my life, then also I will remain as usual. That's why good things are not enough. I need a physical embodiment of these good things, in terms of a material, in terms of a spiritual master, who can be in my life, who can interfere in my life, whom I can refer, I can question, I can be in his company, and he can interfere with me, and he can make me or mold me into a greater and a refined personality from the present personality I have. So I think we need a physical embodiment of this principles. Mere following principles will not suffice to take us from manhood to godhood.
Absolutely. I love this example. Merely reading Ramayana is not going to help. We need a living Ramchandra in our life. I think on the same lines, I would like to say, what is the use of principles without the principle in life? What is the value of ideas without an ideal in life? We can read about principles, we can read about ideas, but we'll never internalize them until we have a personality in whom these principles have been embodied. Without having such a personality in whom the principles and ideas have been embodied or materialized, everything else will just become mere words, theory. This will not give us any practical experience. That's why it is necessary to have a supreme ideal in the life, not just, there is no lack of ideas and principles. There are tons and tons of books. There are hundreds and thousands of libraries. There is no paucity of ideas and principles. But what is lacking today is the experience, the realization, and that is missing. And that realization is possible only when we have a center, the love center or living ideal in the center of life. Maybe we have time for just one more question. then probably we'll move to the closure. If the last question can be brought up, or should we find a balance between spiritualism and materialism? Please elaborate.
Can we leave materialism together, altogether? We should find a balance between spiritualism and materialism. That's what I think we discussed in the present session, that how we actually need a balance. We actually need a balance between spiritualism and materialism. Both are needed. Spirit is the cause which will lead me towards achievement of the material. So that's why if the cause, if the thought, if the thought, the world of thought is defined, then the world of achievements will also be defined. So that's why we actually need a balance between these two. We just discussed in details in today's session. I hope this point only. We need a balance. We need a perfect balance between spiritual and material world. I think Srijay, they can add.
No, absolutely. I think whatever you have said, that kind of summarizes in this question, or in the response to this question. So, I mean, how can we leave materialism altogether if matter is spirit is the cause and matter is effect? If you have cause, we'll have effect. So, matter and spirit will coexist. So there is no question of giving up, materialism, because as long as spirit is there, so long as matter will be there. As long as the life force is there, so long my gross form will be there, my physical body would be there. So that's why we should not, and we don't have to give up, because we need both. And that's why Sri Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra has said, "Ami sansarer sannyasi chai." I need a sadhu, I need a saint who is a saint in this material world, who lives a spiritual life in this material world, because both are inseparable. Fabulous discussion. As we move towards the end of this session, I'm reminded of one thing. I think probably Socrates said this. He said, "An unexamined life is not worth living." What is the point in living a life which we have not tried to analyze, understood, examine? So when we dived into the questions of materialistic life, we actually dived deeper into life itself, because the thought shared by Professor Das took us deep inside life, understanding different facets of life, understanding the true purpose and meaning of life, understanding the goal of life, and also bringing out a very um, profound truth, which is a life without a life teacher at the center can become a zigzag life, not a circle. It can end up in a life which is shattered, which gets shattered and fragmented in at the core. So this is absolutely profound discussion. Money, wealth. When we refer to this materialistic world, we generally refer to money, wealth, etc. But I think the inextricable relation how they can't be separated. I'm reminded of the quote by a very famous philosopher. He says, "What we take from this life is livelihood. What we give this world is life. What we take from this world is livelihood. What we give this world is life. All our, every day we are hankering for life, but unfortunately we are running after livelihood. We want life, but all our actions, thoughts are leading us to livelihood, because we only keep taking from this world. We don't think about giving it back to this world. I think when Professor Das was talking about nourishing and nurturing the environment to fulfill for the sake of the master or ideal is such a powerful statement that we live a life to fulfill and nurture our master, and in the process we also nurture our environment, because environment is the source of our existence, and being serviceable to the environment is of utmost priority, should be the utmost priority in our life. I'm reminded of what Alexis Carrel, the famous Nobel laureate, says. He says we talk about this material world, the scientific world, the advancement of science and technology. He says the man of science has forgotten the science of man. As men and women of science, we have progressed tremendously in the fields of technology and science. We're talking about artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, and whatnot. But we have forgotten about the essence of life. So, if matter is the mechanism of life, spirituality provides the meaning of life. That's where they come together. And this is what my personal learning is today from the deliberation, from the profound sharing, the profound insights that Professor Das shared with us today. Professor Das, I would like to thank from the core of my heart. I would like to profusely thank you on behalf of the Cradle team for being with us today and sharing such powerful, profound insights with our audience, which we will remember for many, 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 many days to come. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I, Akhil, I mean, worthy of this thankfulness, because these things are not mine at all. Um, this all goes to the ideology of Param Brahmacharya Thakur Anukul Chandraji. It was, means I could have just taken few, an ocean in a teacup, means I just presented few of the things, what I've understood, even tried to understood from his ideology before all of you. So I really don't worthy of that. It's all his divine blessings, his divine uh, ideology. But I tried to present before all of you. Thanks a lot. The
This
privilege
is
is all mine. Thank you.
this is so beautiful. This is so beautiful. And this talks about your attachment to your true master. So, audience, thank you very much for being with us today, for your beautiful participation, inquisitive questions. Do write to us about what more you would like to listen to in the future sessions of Cradle webinar series. Once again, thank you all for your beautiful participation, tremendous contribution to this session. Now I sign off till we see again. Thank you.
Thank you.